like, what do you do during the average day? It's like, it's kind of strange. It's like I spent the first part of the morning working on a book on retroduction and theurgy. And then it literally did take over 10 hours. I spent 10 hours making 4 alligator keychains. It literally took 10 hours to make these, believe it or not. Getting to the point here, I'll ship these off tomorrow if you order an alligator keychain. Keep my head on a swivel, and I ask a lot of questions to a lot of different people. I actually know more than a few police officers, and I don't really care what you think about police officers. The point is getting accurate information and talking about things. There was a guy that nearly ran into me. I honked the horn to prevent an accident. So this 20-something guy, he has a horrible road rage accident. Actually, when things get dangerous, I get more logical and less emotional. And I'm not emotional at all to begin with, normally, but I get hyper-focused. So this guy goes crazy. This happened yesterday, by the way. The last 3 digits on his license plate were 001. VP, I'm going to leave the 3rd digit blank, 001. Anyway, he grabs a piece out of his glove compartment. He gets out of his car. He's actually yelling something in English. I know he is speaking English, but since he's just like frothing at the mouth, you know, insane, people are getting way unhinged. I could actually sense it. Like when I say I have my head on a swivel, I really do. And this Lexington is like a milquetoast town, meaning it's not, you know, crazy nuts. Like there's always insanity going on in Chicago, L.A., you know, New York, Portland, you know, just some of these crazy cities. You know they're crazy. They're horribly mismanaged. You know, just the city is just a mess. Doesn't matter whether it's 5 years ago or today. But things are ramping up a lot. And that, of course, is because people are being put out of work and, you know, gas prices or, you know, you got people that can't work anymore, or they're being put out of work for reasons that you know, like the silly mandates. You know, you have inflation, which is like a backdoor tax, which of course it is. Gas and other things, food is radical. So people are getting nuts, and it's escalating fast. This happened to me yesterday, but that's an isolated incident, so we could say that's anecdotal. And of course it is. One incident is anecdotal, but I've seen a lot of it going around. Anyway, I talked to a cop, and I gave him this guy's info. And I know a lot of cops. And what you think about cops is neither here nor there. Anyway, I asked this sergeant. She called me as a female sergeant. She called me, and I was talking with her. I did some name dropping, okay, because I know a lot of people in the police force, to get her to open up, because I wanted to ask her a question. And I said, you know, you guys, you got the insight, because Lexington really would be like a canary in the coal mine, because it is so milquetoast, normal. Lexington is just like this college town. It's isolated in the South. Technically, where I'm at right here in Lexington is the South. But, you know, there's no craziness here like there is in Chicago or LA. And I said, well, how much have things like incidents like this are ramping up? Because you see it. Because whatever you think of cops, and I don't care, they see whether the craziness, you know, their meter for the crazy is highly accurate. You know, if you could talk to, you know, a logical, sensible one that, and she said between 300 to 400%. I said, really? You know, since all the craziness and insanity started year and a half plus ago? She said, yes. She said it's like 300 to 400%. And that's about what I figured it is. But for that to be the case in Lexington, where I'm at, that tells you a lot. It is getting worse. I'd like to talk about Australia here for a second. There's things that I look at and notice that other people don't notice, and I'm not trying to pick on Australia. And there's a comment from a chick in the UK, and it kind of gives you an insight into the, right now, there's a divide and conquer mentality. Divide and conquer. Let me say that 2 more times, because that's what's going on right now. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. And I'd like to, and of course what she says is completely demonic and unreal, but let me let me play it for you. This is a BBC.
It's more about tackling those people who haven't had a vaccine at all. And how are we going to incentivize them? Psychologically, it's a bit like parenting. You have to start taking away freedoms. You have to start putting some kind of punishment in place. You can't...
we're going to take away your freedoms. Don't forget. We can take away your freedoms. And then we're going to punish you. It's not funny at all. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's insane. If I told you, or a group of individuals like a couple years ago, that this sort of medical apartheid insanity would be happening, I mean, you just say I was crazy. You'd say I was insane, but that's exactly what's happening. And as you could say, well, that's just one person. But this sort of evil is being indoctrinated. You know, say you hated your neighbor, like your neighbor was a horrible or evil person or something. Literally this divide and conquer mentality, it's peaking, and you don't want to see what happens when it peaks. You don't want to see it. You do not want to see that. I don't even want to talk about that. I'd like you to take a guess at what happens when it peaks. There have been instances in history when things along the same line, not just like this, but essentially the same lines have happened. And, disaster was the result. This is not good. Anyway, I know the Aussie Cossack was playing this, but other people sent me this from the Australian TV shows. Her name is Australian Premier Anastasia Palashchuk. I'm probably mispronouncing her last name. She said these quarantine facilities are going to be needed for the unjuiced. She didn't say unjuiced, but she says these are going to be needed for the unjuiced. She also said this is your last chance. Now, if you're in Australia, you're hearing from all these government, and all governments are evil. Some are way more evil than others. This is your last chance, and we're building these facilities in the middle of nowhere. You say, well, they can call them facilities all they want, but they're prisons. They're internment camps, prisons, that's exactly what they are. You can call them facility. Calling a turd a rose doesn't make it any less of a turd, so I don't care if they call them a facility. These are prison camps. You tell me what you think of Australia. Take away your freedoms. This is that chick from the UK. So we punish you. If taking away your freedom is not enough, then we need to punish you. There's something that you need to realize too, and most people don't realize it, especially this is the case in New Zealand and Australia and Canada, is that people don't know the difference between a citizen and a subject. Even though I love the people of New Zealand, Canada, and Australia, and basically everywhere else too, these people are subjects, they're not citizens. You could argue with me about that all day you want. You're not going to get anywhere, at least not with me. But they are subjects, they're not citizens. There's a huge difference between a citizen and a subject. Love you to death, Australia. The people that I talk with the most and have the most conversations with, and a bunch of Australians and Canadians. Something that's really telling, this is the last thing I'm going to say about Australia, and I've seen so many Australians have sent me so many videos. Something that nobody has noticed before, at least not that I know of. And they're basically in all these videos where something horrible is happening, okay, to a person by these Australian cops. Tells you how evil, and these are not cops, they're thugs, okay, they're thugs, let's be honest with each other. I don't care what you think, you could disagree with, they're thugs. The same thing happens in basically all of these videos where these thugs with badges and patches on their shoulders are doing horrible things to the Australian citizens. And somebody like a reporter, I don't care if it's Avi Yemeni or the Aussie Cossack, or even the person after they've been manhandled and brutalized, they ask a question, it's like, what law, they'll say something like, what law did I violate, what ordinance did I not follow, or, I'm following what I'm supposed to be. I got a face diaper on, my home, like in Australia, you're only allowed like 5-kilometer distance. My house is right over there. I'm walking in the park with a face diaper. What law? What did I violate? You've seen those videos too. And every one of these videos, when the person or the reporter asks, I can't call them cops, I have to call them thugs. Sorry, they're not cops because they're not actual law enforcement people, because they're not enforcing the law. They're being abusive to the citizens. These cops, okay, they say, I don't have to answer that question, or they say something like, I'm not going to talk to you, or, the fact that they can't answer, because they're not following the law. They're not doing it. These citizens that have been brutalized, or the reporters that actually do know the law, these people, and the same is true, not that that's what's happening here in America. Cops are LEOs, you can call them law enforcement officers. They're not lawyers, they're not judges. They know almost nothing about law. The real question is, in Australia, on these cops that are brutalizing the citizens, is are they being given these directives directly, from the top, and then it's filtering down into the heads of these regional police facilities? That's a question I'm asking to the Australians. And I know they don't know. Maybe a few of them out there might. I wonder where the these orders are coming from. But it's of extremely important and horrific note, and it should tell you a lot, is that when these people who are brutalized, or reporters ask you, what law did they violate? I know they're not violating any law. I filmed the whole thing from start. I don't have to ask you your question. I don't have to answer your question. I don't have to talk to you. That's none of your business. You could take it up with Judge so-and-so, or not judges, I forget what they call them in Australia. There's a different name for them. Excuse me for forgetting. But all these cops should tell you a lot. Don't talk. You don't have to answer your questions. Like, yeah, you do. You're breaking the law. You're not a law enforcement officer. You're breaking the law and brutalizing these citizens who are not breaking any law. They're not doing anything wrong. That should tell you a whole lot. So, I don't know what you call Australia anymore, but it's not free and it's not a democracy. There is no Bill of Rights there. There's not. There's no Bill of Rights there. There's not. I got that off of an Australian legal website, an official legal website. Doesn't mean I'm picking on Australia. It's ramping up down there, and it is ramping up here too. I'm telling you for a fact right here in the United States, things are escalating hard and fast. There are, oh, by the way, Reuters, you want to talk about fake news. I don't know if you heard of Reuters. Reuters said they did a fact check, and the idea that there's empty shelves in grocery stores is false information. Well, not only is that laughable, it's palpably absurd. There are countless 100,000 videos out there of empty shelves in grocery stores across. I mean, I myself have seen them in various locations. I'm not saying the whole freaking grocery store is empty. I'm saying there's a lot of empty stuff. All news, I don't care what you think about the news. I mean, they can report on demonstrable empirical information. All the ships that are sitting off of like off Los Angeles and Long Beach, the ships are piling up exponentially. And they've talked to the truckers. They can't get the carriages that the actual shipping containers drop in, and they're complaining, that doesn't matter that their Long Beach and Los Angeles and a few other places have opened up for 24 hours now, 24/7, 7 days a week. It doesn't matter. It can't be done. Not enough truckers. People don't want to show up to work. There's not enough carriages. To think that what's going on is not planned. Also, too, I'm sorry, I've asked an enormous amount of people, and I've had no demonstrable empirical evidence that the chip shortage is real. I'm sorry, that's not a conspiracy that I'm believing. I've asked and asked and asked and asked. I've seen no demonstrable evidence in a genuine chip shortage. This is manufactured. I've seen no evidence to the contrary that this is not manufactured. Toyota says that they're shutting down now production lines. I know a couple big wigs at Fujifilm. Forget about it. Just not enough silicon wafer lithography to feed, which is everything. Apple is cutting back on production. Apple says they're worried, even though they're gearing up for their own production in Los Angeles. I mean, out in California somewhere, but it's not built. I know huge silicon wafer lithography plants are take an incredible amount of time and countless billions of dollars to produce, and Apple's not there yet, so they still have to rely on overseas sources. I've seen no evidence for genuine chip manufacturing shortage. None. Prove me wrong on that one. I've been asked to be proved wrong on that one. It seems to be completely manufactured. I don't believe it. I've seen no evidence to say anything to the contrary on that. The fact that the cops here, the sergeants, not just like the flat, your beat cops, tell me, and a place is milk toast. Milk toast, by the way, is American slang for kind of like cut and dry, boring, normal. There's nothing exceptionally ordinary about it. Lexington's not left. It's not right. It's not like, some radical mess like Chicago is. It's just like right in the middle of normalcy. The crime and craziness is here has skyrocketed over 300 to 400%, as she said. And I talked to another cop that was recently retired, and he says all his cop buddies said it's the same thing. It's radically increased here. Other than being prepared and having no less than 3 months of food, and keeping your head on a swivel. I said in 2020 that things are going to be way worse in 2021, and they are. I don't want that to be the case. I'd like for things to return to, what we called normal. Whether you like what we called normal or not, don't really care. But next year, 2022, is going to be way worse than this one. Every indication says that it's going to be way worse, especially now that we have major shortages. Supply chains are radically worse than they were last year, and they're getting worse and worse literally by the day. People are going nuts. There is a threshold, a breaking point. You can see it in Australia. Like, watch Avi Yemeni's latest. I don't care if you like Avi Yemeni or not. People have gone nuts. They really have gone. Someone called it clown world. Should be accurate. Call it clown world. People are getting nuts. They've reached the fringe point. You kind of like you back an animal into a corner and you creep a little closer and a little closer, and normally it's like an innocent little animal. You creep a little closer and then it lashes out and it acts. There is a threshold of humanity that is quickly approaching, combined with people forcibly being put out of work, combined with increased pressure, combined with radically increased prices and inflation. There are a lot of things that are pushing people at this threshold point. I've seen it coming. It's getting worse. I don't want it to get worse, but it is. It is undeniably. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care at all. I know that threshold is being quickly approached. I can see it. I can see it everywhere. The only place where you don't really see it is you go out in the countryside. And this is the reason why I sold half of what I own the past couple of years. I've seen this coming. The reason why I bought a farm and a cabin out in the deep woods is because I've seen this coming. That's the place where you won't see it. Yeah, I know. Like everything out there is, other than them feeling the pinch of gas prices and food inflation, everything out there is. It's the reason why land has basically vanished. I've had so many people, like I agree with you. I sold kind of everything I got and bought land out and I'm building a home. Here's the fact I didn't mention. I went out to my cabin like 4 days ago, and I made a video out there 5 days ago. And I saw the guy. I knew a guy bought 100 acres near my cabin, and he was from Michigan. And I talked to him. I was like, did you buy this? A Michigan guy. He's working on his gate there. There's no home or anything. It's just 100 acres of raw land. He's like, yeah, everybody's gone crazy. I wanted to move out here to the country of Kentucky. I got this 100 acres pretty cheap. I'd be so happy, me and my wife living here. We're building a home out here, get away from all the crazy people up in Michigan. I was like, hey, I don't mention his name, shook his hand. I was like, yeah, I live right over there in the cabin. Oh, yeah, I know about the cabin over there. And there are a lot of people that are doing that, the people that have the ability to do it. I don't have the means to do that, but I had to sell half of everything I own, actually over half of everything I own to do it. And I don't regret it at all, because every month it is getting worse, and there is not a chance in hell that you're going to deny that. You know it, you can see it, unless you've had your head buried in the sand. It is getting worse, and it is ramping up, and there will be a breaking point, a threshold, where humanity starts lashing out like a rabid dog backed into a corner. And they're already, Happened to me yesterday. And that's just anecdotal, I know that. But I'm seeing it all the hell over. Take from that what you will. I'm not a doom and gloomer. I'm not Chicken Little, the sky is falling. You know, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. And whew. Peace out, Girl Scout.